So before I was a Christian, I didn't really understand that being a Christian really meant surrendering your life to Jesus and living for him. I thought it was just kind of a group that you fell into. Either you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, or Buddhist, and I didn't identify with the other groups, so I identified with Christianity because that's what I grew up around, but never really understood the principles behind it. When I was a kid, I grew up, and there was always, the Christian group of people that I didn't really feel like I fit into. Sometimes they were hypercritical, or, I didn't understand Jesus. I didn't understand how to live for God. And so there was this group that I grew up, and I just remember they were almost so critical. I felt like outcast, that I couldn't be a part of that I would never be good enough to be in that group. And I think looking back, they probably were just learning and were growing and didn't know how to stand up and say how to do it in a loving way. But it turned me off from wanting to be a part of the Christian group, because I thought if you were, a radical Christian or somebody who actually lived it out, that you had to be really judgy and critical of other people. And that was a big turnoff for me. She was just so kind, so loving, really just super intentional. And I remember, she would follow up with me afterwards. And a lot of the times in college, if you're like, yeah, I'll text you later, or we'll hang out later, it was just a very passive response. It didn't really mean you were going to put any action behind it. And Andrea was serious. I want to see you later. Where can I meet you? What time? Does that work for you? And I remember it just felt so different to have someone who actually cared and, wasn't just looking for gain. They genuinely wanted to be my friend. And she understood that I was different and I didn't have the same values, but she still loved me and had compassion on me. And I thought it really started to change my perspective on what it means to be a Christian. I'm a kind of an achiever person. I like to be the best at whatever I put my mind to. So, whether that was an A student or being the best athlete or being the best friend, whatever it was, I wanted to achieve. And so there was, with Christianity, I started going to the small groups and the Bible studies, and I was like, I'm going to have the right answers and I'm going to be right and I'm going to get this Christianity thing down pat. And I couldn't, I was never going to be enough. And I think that always was hard for me. I was like, I can't earn my way into love from God. I can't earn that. And to realize that I couldn't earn his love, that I had to completely surrender, was so foreign to me. And it was just such a different concept, and actually led to me, wanting to make that change. I remember the first time I came to Andrea, we were doing our small group and we were reading Crazy Love and the book. And he said, you can't love God and love your sin. And that hit me hard because I loved my sin. I mean, I was thriving in my accomplishments. I was thriving in my ambitions. I was thriving in that, and I loved it. And I just remember looking at her and I started crying, crying, and was like, what do I do? I love my sin. And she said, ask God to change your heart. And that night I started to pray, and it didn't happen immediately. I still loved a lot of my sin, but it took months and months before God really started to change my heart, and ultimately I surrendered. It's so important for people to share their faith, to even the people they don't think will ever surrender to Jesus, because I'm going to get emotional, but if Andrea had not stepped into my life, I don't know where I would be. Not saying that God's not bigger than one person or bigger than one interaction, but her persistence in pursuing my heart and her persistence in being there for me were integral for me to be a believer and to follow Jesus. There were times that it would have been easier to walk away, and would have been easier to say, you know what, forget it, I just want to go back. But her just love and persistence, it made everything such a difference. I'm so thankful that she didn't stop, and I'm so thankful for that. And I don't think that it means every single person will turn because of one interaction or because of a relationship, but you don't know what kind of seed you're planting. You don't know what kind of conversation they're going to reflect on later in their life. She never was pushy. She never was like, I love Jesus. Do you love Jesus? You need to love Jesus. It was just more out of her actions and who she was. It was nothing to do with, it was partially to do with what she said, but more about who she was. And so your character, your light, it will shine through.